seems like it's got some other potential uses as well. So the only thing I don't like is that it drops its label everywhere. And so it wants everybody to know what it is, product placement wise. And I kind of feel like if we're paying for the service, then we shouldn't have to also offer free advertising for the service. And that's my only complaint about it, is just that it seems like it really wants us to do its job for it in terms of promoting the product. But other than that, our stream yesterday on both channels or on both platforms was really good. So
Grand Rising, good morning, everybody. Can I say something about that? Because I had the exact same thought, and we're going to have to revisit it because, like, my hero, Benjamin P. Dixon, the clickbaity political thirst trap morning show, like they stream it multiple places, and it doesn't say shit about restream.
I know. It's got to be something in the gears or the guts of it, I imagine. And I just haven't had time to do a deeper investigation of what that is. But yeah, we're not trying to shill for a custom live streaming service. That's not what we do here.
Well, and I was like, again, like if we're anti-capitalist, I was like, maybe on the free version, but not on the paid version. I'm not doing commercials and we're paying.
No, exactly. It's if we're paying for it, yeah. And it's not like, I mean, I'm not saying like don't use products. It's like, right. Oh, you're against capitalism, and yet you wear boxer briefs. I mean, it's just, yeah. Anyway, never.
It's a struggle. I mean, everybody can make their own choices.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, as a true socialist, I gave up all my underwear years ago.
I was gonna say, going commandos for communism. Like, I don't know, is that a good slogan? Like,
that's great.
That's a great website for That's all I'm gonna say.
We call this entrepreneurial socialism.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of entrepreneurialism up here.
Yeah.
Well, I struggle with this, right? Because this is it's the transitional system. That's what I want to call it, right? Where like but we're still like stuck in the one.
Yeah.
System. So it's like, how do you work in the system to make it a different system?
Mm-hmm.
Commandos for communism. That's the transition.
The Cubans always call that a special period. Right. Oh, we're in a special period now where we have to sell shit in order to, sort of keep our economic functioning, alive, because we're in the, we can't, you can't, even if you're a country, you can't necessarily go off grid, completely off grid. I mean, and so it's tough. We're in it, but not of it. I guess that's what they used to say to us when we were Mormons.
I was going to say that's
in the world, but not of the world. Yeah, Derek's like, yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
that sounds so familiar and still so timely.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate that, because that's the scripture that's come to me. But that, again, like how we have twisted religion, right, in the ways that like we say the words, but I think we're getting it wrong. I think we were in the world and not of the world is what we're talking about, as opposed to just like who you happen to call God. Does that make sense? Like, of these gods that we worship that we don't realize that we worship. And so I appreciate that's been the verse that's been coming to me a lot about sort of this transitional system and how you navigate between the two, in the world but not of the world. Yana's her TED Talk also said like this optimism, like 1 foot in the box, 1 foot out, right? Of like seeing the world. And so I was like, oh, that's the same thing. It's like in the world, but not of the world, like in the world, but I also see something better. So I appreciate that, that tie-in. Okay. So Grand Rising, happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Solidarity House Morning Show. Did you already do the commercial? Did I miss the commercial, Matt? Or were you? Okay, great. So
I can do it.
please, thank you.
Yeah. If you like this content and want to help us keep making it available to the public for free, please support us at patreon.com/solidarityhouse. For $5 or more a month, you can be a special premium member and get all kinds of premium access to it, which is not very different than our normal access, but just more of it. And also, I wanted to say that later on today, we will be releasing our Solidarity Wyoming podcast with a conversation with Lynette Graybull, folks. We sat down and talked to Lynette Graybull after the general election. First Indigenous person to run for a national seat from the state of Wyoming, from the occupied territory that is called Wyoming. And it was a great conversation. So we're looking forward to that too. But yeah, patreon.com/solidarityhouse.
Like, share, subscribe, because now we're everywhere right now, right? So if you're watching us on Facebook, or if you're watching us on YouTube, or wherever you're watching us, like, share, subscribe. Thank you very much. We appreciate all of the support. Happy Tuesday. So
We have 2 likes on YouTube so far. That is so precious.
what did you say?
There are 2 likes on YouTube so far.
That is very precious. I heard the precious part, but I didn't hear what was precious. Thank you for that. Let's do check-ins. Who wants to go first? It's good to see everyone's faces.
Y'all go, because I got to do some social media sharing for us while we're doing this. So,
Derek, Antifa, or should I start things off? This is one thing I realized. We should probably figure out the orders before, so we don't like have this like you go, because that's usually like a lots of second pause sometimes. I'm gonna start since I'm still
Sounds
talking,
great.
and then I'll stop talking. I am once again very grateful for my comrades and for my friends outside of my Solidarity Collective, my community, my friends, my family who are my family, and all of those people. The support, the love, I think, especially in this day and time and space, the idea of having real connection about things that really matter and being able to like have kindred spirits and those real like sort of like soul connections. I had a great conversation yesterday with somebody who I think is going to come join us on the show. And again, just about like religion, Christ consciousness, where we're at of like how we deal with people. And again, just feeling like gratitude and hope in a really weird way. I know that there's still like probably some darker days ahead. Like we still got some shit to do, right? But I think that there are enough of us speaking truth to power, not willing to go back to any sort of fucking normal bullshit of what was normal or whatever people thought was great or whatever. And yeah, I'm really, really grateful for community, and I'm grateful for having those connections. And that's where I'm at today. Check.
I can go out. I just wanted to add to that. Like, I expressed this in a private meeting a while ago, but it's something that's easy for me to take for granted now that I've been here at Solidarity House for a couple of months, which is weird. Like, I haven't been here that long. But, you know, a couple of years ago, I would have never guessed that there were this many rad people to connect with. And, you know, like kind of seeing my evolution into opposition to the status quo. I would have never thought there were people in the same town or the same state who would have thought anywhere close to what I did, which was a very discouraging prospect. So yeah, I'm feeling a lot of gratitude to be with the people I am.
Wow. I received that message. I echo that message. I really appreciate that. Antifa, where are you calling from? I don't even know. Did we say where you're from? I don't know where you are today. And
I'm
how?
actually calling you from Genoa, Italy. I'm getting ready to celebrate independence of colonizers. They have a big party here for Christopher Columbus. It's his birthplace. So I figured I'd come over here and drop a turd in their punch bowl.
I thought we were going to salami when you said that. That's the only thing I always think of. Because food.
Salami? Yeah, well, that's also where Christopher Columbus was born. So I'd take the salami any day over him.
Yeah, I wonder if we need to can we classify the salami a little bit differently? I didn't know that that's where that was his birthplace. And icky. I don't know. Gratitude to colonizer. What do we call the day? I've been messing with this. I like what you said.
I get sick and tired of I guess we're going to segue right into this until Matt comes back. I get sick and tired of the moralistic relativism when it comes to our past, our forefathers, the colonizers and whatnot. Everybody knew it was terrible to, I don't know, torture people, tie them to trees and hack at them with axes and hatchets for fun. People knew that was wrong, even in 1492. And that's the kind of shit that Columbus and his men did for entertainment. Sometimes when they were on their adventures, misadventures, because they completely didn't get where they were supposed to go. I mean, why we're celebrating this guy is beyond me. He didn't even know where the hell he was going. Okay, and he ended up on the opposite side of the globe, and he had no business being there, and nobody wanted to see him. And then comes this guy with all these murderous.
He was a cuck. Christopher Columbus was a cuck. Christopher Cuckless.
Yes, exactly. Christopher Columbus is a cuck. And you know, my old religion used to revere Columbus as almost a fucking saint. Because of, this is the promised land America is. This is the greatest place ever. This is God's gift to us righteous people. And, Columbus discovered it for us. And I mean, there was a whole cult around Columbus, and you just have to step back from that. Just one step.
I mean, most American mainstream Christian religions revere white colonization in one way or another. The Mormons perfected that mythos by baking it into their scriptures as part of that manifest destiny, and white providence was really the saving of indigenous civilization, and that white Jesus visited indigenous people, during his life ministry, or like right after his crucifixion or whatever the timeline was, and so it's tough, and someday. I would love to interview folks from the Mormon worker movement who are folks who have tried to distill the many socialistic messages from Mormon scriptures, and to kind of try to save those and kind of kick out some of that other stuff. And I would love to talk to them about it too, because I feel like they're making a good faith effort. And sorry to hijack your check-in, Antifa.
You're not hijacking my check-in, really. I mean, thank you for that. I'm just, I am a fucking cracker. I am so white. You could practically just, I blend into an eggshell wall. Okay. So understanding all this and what I was indoctrinated with and growing up with as a child, I was spoon-fed the myth in school even that Christopher Columbus was this great discoverer, blah, 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 blah. And now you're trying to undo that. And as an adult, you're like, why do we keep doing this? Mm-hmm. Why do we allow this moral relativism to justify things like not taking care of systemic racism? Because, not everybody was opposed to slavery and blah, things that are morally on their face that were wrong then and are wrong now are still wrong. and trying to justify it by this lens of, oh, it was 400 years ago is infuriating, because you can't even get to the conversation and everything's just gelled right there perfectly, and trying to break up that white male colonizer system. I'm getting off track. My check-in, I'm doing well. I'm in Genoa. I'm here trying to dump a turd in their punch bowl for Columbus's birthday party and discovery date and all of that, because I think that they need to take him back. I mean, I hate to wish more ill on Italy. They've already got a horrible COVID crisis going on, but I think they should just take Columbus back and keep him. We don't want him. Check.
Can I just say that if I haven't told you yet today, which it's still early in the morning, so I don't think I've told you yet today, I fucking love you. Like,
Thank you.
Love you. I love all of you guys. Like, you all know that I love you. I love all of you. I'll look at everybody individually. Right? So I really appreciate what you're saying, because I think that it's really relevant to what's happening right now. And what you said, like, they knew it was wrong when it was happening then. People knew, you didn't not know what you were doing was wrong. And I think it's the same thing now, right? Where like history, we'll see how history is written. We have more internet now, so that, you know, they can't necessarily just like write the history books and say different stuff and we all are taught one thing. However, these are the concerns, right? This is why we continue to speak truth to power, because there's definitely a movement, right? The Prager University, like that, there's a movement to have propaganda just be our classes. And so the Christopher Columbus thing, my son did, when we did unschooling, or, you know, unschooling, like the first time a year ago. And one of the things, Matt, you know this book, People's History of the United States, young people, the young adult.
We've got at least one volume of it in the library. And if people want to send us more, the full set, we want your Zin. Send your Zin. Contact me if you want to contribute some more Zin to our library.
Well, and there's apparently like there's more. I found like there's a queer people's history, there's an indigenous people, and there's like history of the world, like a people's history. There's like all sorts of that are more than Zen apparently. Anyway, but so Everett had already studied Christopher Columbus, and we actually, when we went back to DPS, to Denver Public Schools, in the GT, Gifted and Talented program, they did an explorers unit, and he got assigned Christopher Columbus, and he was so ready, right? He was like, oh, actually, I'm ready to do this report. Like, this is something I am very well prepared for. And wouldn't you know, he came home and he said, Mom, you know, the teacher reassigned me because she didn't like what I had to say about Christopher Columbus. And so she said, well, I don't really know if that's appropriate. Like, we'll give you somebody else. Like, I'll assign you somebody else. And again, that's real life now, right? Of like, how could people knew it was wrong then, but we're still saying it's right now. Like, how is that still a thing? And what is happening right now, right? With COVID, with all of the crises, like, of people doing the wrong thing, and like, you know, it's wrong. You knew it was wrong then, and same shit, different day. It's fucking wrong now. So I just, I appreciate that. I just wanted to.
There's a teacher on our feed, on the live stream feed, who says that they're teaching third through fifth grade gifted kids young people's history. So bless you for doing that. That's what we need.
This
Lord
is how
knows,
we change the world.
There's enough of that, going the other way, that you are rendering a valuable service. So kudos if you're teaching this material. So my check-in really quick is I'm doing okay. Had a great day yesterday, kind of escaped and went on a long drive with my teens for a few hours, just away from everyone, and saw some cool stuff. and looking forward, so forward today to have this conversation about navigating the holidays and colonialism with our non-radical families and friends, and also crushing hard on a lot of people, I'm not going to lie, and also really, really proud of Yana, our comrade and my partner Yana, for the things that she's been doing this week. She was on a really good political call with folks around Wyoming yesterday, and then also, of course, her new book came out earlier last week. So good stuff all around, and looking forward to our coming festivities.
It is really exciting. Everett he said yesterday, he was like, man, Yana is just so cool, man. And I was like, I know, bro, I know. She's really cool. It's nice to, she's a treasured resource. It's very nice to be able to be in her presence, and to be able to, like, I was looking through the book and I was reading through the book. I don't know if you guys have read through it at all, but just like getting started, and I was like taking screenshots, like, I need to remember this. I want to go back to this. Really good stuff. Really, really good stuff. So yeah, shout out to Yana.
I remember being in that starry-eyed status.
Say that again.
I remember being starry-eyed when I first found Solidarity House on the internet, and that Yana Ludwig's name came up multiple times, and found out that she was an amazing person.
Not that everybody isn't amazing in their own right, and I want to say that, like, it's
I think
funny
she's probably
because
most public.
she is, right? She absolutely is. And so I forget, I'm like, oh yeah, we have, like, yeah, they're like real people. Like, there's lots of real people with real skills and real spirits and real souls and all of these sorts of like things that they bring to the table. I also want to say, so as we segue into gratitude to colonizers, I thought about it as almost like changing it to like day of humbling and healing. And so one of the things is like people who get it, right? This idea of repentance, this idea, again, what Antifa was talking about, like coming to terms with like knowing, like, if we haven't come to terms with it, what's happening, what has happened, what's wrong and what's right, like, what are we doing? But gratitude to colonizers day. So this idea of humbling and healing, this idea of repentance versus people who aren't ready for repentance, people who are not there yet, right? And like, there's going to be a lot of conversations, Zooms, hopefully lots of Zoom conversations on the Turkey Day, Thanksgiving Day, Thursday, and kind of like what those, I guess we're just going to talk about what those are going to be like, and any sort of tips or tricks or strategies, or kind of where you guys are at. So yeah, whoever wants to start it off. I think there's a whole lot here, so we could take it a lot of different directions, and I'm interested to hear what is on your guys's, that's the awful English, what's on your hearts about this topic, and we can kind of go from there.
I had something on my mind that I wanted to hear other people's thoughts on. So this isn't specifically about holidays or relatives, but kind of it seems like a reactionary's interpretation of socialist values, and that being the left eschews gratitude. It's always outrage, and we want more, and it's abolition this and civil rights that, and they're never going to be content. Like, what else do they want? And that's something I was thinking about. I don't know if I was in any way internalizing it, but obviously I think gratitude is very good for the mental health but what's the difference between gratitude and, I guess, complacency?
There's this Onion headline that keeps coming back every so often on social media, which is, exhausted Noam Chomsky just wants to sit around and enjoy the day for a while, or something like that. So I totally get what you're saying. I feel like different people have different thresholds for it. But I also feel like it actually goes with what I was going to say, which is that so a lot of people, the vast majority of people, do not politicize the world the way that those of us on the left do, and that some folks on the right just, do in this very, in my opinion, kind of a very fucked up way. But they sort of have that, they live in sort of that politically charged world too, where everything is a manifestation of, or everything is a confirmation of their, pre-existing beliefs. And then we listen to podcasts, and we make podcasts, and we are in the Twitterverse, and we are on social media that's very, bubbly. And so to me, I don't know that, and I think this is the problem with this, is it's also kind of a question of privilege, of how much privilege you have. And I think that means in both ways. On the one hand, how much privilege do you have to depoliticize the world? But on the other hand, how much privilege do you have to politicize everything all the time, and sort of heap your theory on everything that goes on? And it seems like both of those things have the potential to ignore kind of people's everyday situations. And so I think that that's important to say. But also, I also think that it's important for us to kind of normalize in some way, to say, look, we are, as activists, we also enjoy life. I don't think that we're going to convince people by saying you can't enjoy things. So I think that the question is how to have those conversations, and also sort of how we manifest in our own ways. Martin Amis, who's a writer who I don't agree with politically, said something interesting that I do agree with. And he was talking in terms of Stalinism, which I would say is, what I would take that to mean is kind of totalitarianism. And I'm sure that I'm going to get a lot of pushback from people for that, but that for him, political totalitarianism is what he called the politicization of sleep itself. The idea that you can't even sleep without being political. There's no escape from the political, and that it's really fucking oppressive to be in that atmosphere where you feel like everything is politicized all the time. And on the other hand, sleep is political, because some people have a better bed to sleep in than others, and so it is political. And so I really feel like there's a truth that goes to both sides of that issue. And I guess that's how I would respond to what Derek is saying.
Well, on that note, the hyper-politicization of everything, I used to be that way until I made a conscious effort to turn off social media and not utilize it much at all. And I have a minimal presence there. But I can only imagine how that constant being, when you said it's oppressive, I'm talking about people like, and this will segue further into our conversation, like people in my family, my brother-in-law, who are caught in the Fox News universe of always being angry all the time. And the idea that making liberal people cry is a governing policy. And it's disturbing, to say the very least. And I see that, and I see Fox as an oppressor of people, its viewers, because it's constantly keeping them angry. It's constantly keeping them awake, or, although, I mean, My Pillow guy can sell how many ever pillows he wants, but they're not going to get a good night's sleep because you have that anger in you all the time. And then you go to church on Sunday and you get more anger if you're a white evangelical because everybody's coming to get you. They're coming for our church. They're going to make us perform gay weddings in our chapel. Oh my God. You know, and it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And they keep, and I guess it's also very addictive to some people to keep that motion going, and they have to have that rage. Otherwise they don't know how to feel anymore. And it's anger has kind of overwhelmed everything. And they're in such a constant state of rage that anything you try to converse with them on, it really doesn't go anywhere.
So I just want to say one thing about that, because this actually came up yesterday in the conversation. I was saying I chatted with a friend yesterday, and I think I hope I'm getting this right. I think that her background is First Baptist, but we are actually having this conversation. And so and I've said from like my health knowledge, right, of like being a health coach, of knowing that I've had some ahas of how when you're in a cult too, right? Or like when you're brainwashed, or like when there are the way that the systems work on your brain, your brain can't work correctly if you don't have enough like nutrients, right? So this idea of people who only eat processed foods, who like all we're eating is processed foods and soft drinks, and that's it, and it's not their fault. I just want to be very clear. These are the systems. Everything is set up, and you're marketed to want it, and it's cheaper, it's easier, like fill in the blank, right? And so if you aren't getting real food, you're not drinking water, you're watching commercials and Fox News, who is putting all of these things into your system, right? All of these things into your brain. How much personal responsibility, and I don't want to, I'm not trying to like say like, oh, you know, personal responsibility goes out the window. But for me, the idea of having compassion for understanding that like people are not well, people are not thinking clearly, people are like, does that make sense? I don't know. I don't want to like absolve people, but like also this idea of understanding what it's like when you're in a cult and you like have been brainwashed to think a thing, right? What it's like when everyone is telling, and the whole thing, you listen to your podcast, you follow your people, you get into those feedback loops of those social media bubbles or whatever that is. And we can say that they're wrong, but are we helping them to understand? Like, I don't know. I think that's why we're having this conversation, right? Because it's really hard. It's really fucking hard. It's really fucking hard. And this is me talking about understanding where all the Trumper people are coming from. And I never thought I would be saying these things, but like also I have compassion. I have compassion for being brainwashed or being in a cult-like situation. And it's really sad. It's really fucking sad.
So you have more compassion than I do.
I know. And it's not, and I want to be very clear because, and I don't know that you guys know this, and this idea of like, is this that I'm new agey, that I just like have all this love and compassion for everybody. It's something that I have really felt called to and felt drawn to, and especially this year, that was on my mission board of understanding the other side. And I never thought that I would be saying these words. And so I have to say, like, they're God's words, not mine, because the compassion in my heart has definitely grown as, yeah. And again, not having, I think this is the difference, making sure that you still, I'm not saying letting people say whatever they want. I'm not saying letting people do whatever they want. I'm not saying having, like, still have safe boundaries, still advocate, still call people out when it's appropriate, or remove yourself. I mean, you know, do whatever is best, make the right choice for yourself in this situation. But that has been like my heart. I feel for these people in the same way, like the Rudy Giuliani, like these people are not well, right? They're still buying into this. This is not good for their health. It's not. But yeah, anyway, that's my take. So I'm curious if you guys have any other thoughts, or what your other plans or strategies, any other tips or tricks, because I got like couple up my sleeve, but I want to hear what you guys have.
I'll just say that I was terrible for most of my life about getting into fights with family members during the holidays and really all the rest of the days. And I think that I just think that there is a difference between living your ethos, including, I think, when necessary, clarifying how you feel about things that are going on. And I think that you can do that. And I think there's a difference between that and the kind of visceral sort of attack mode or radically defensive mode that we sometimes get into, which, I think that anger is informed by something else. I don't think it's informed by necessarily your politics. I think you can have those politics and also, try to shed and sacrifice that anger, sacrifice it to the gods, and that you'll be healthier if you do. And I say that as someone who was not healthy, who lived an extremely unhealthy life of anger due to all kinds of fucked up childhood antecedents, and so I was not a good manager of it. And I think that and to be fair, all of the adults in my family when I was growing up just sucked. They were terrible. They were awful. They were not good parents. They were not good grandparents. They were not, they were not good people. But me carrying that, I think, made me a less healthy person. And so I think it's hard to admit to yourself that some of the anger that you are exuding is not necessarily coming from the healthiest place, even politically, for you. And so I really think that if you can get some help, if you can get some therapy, and if you can breathe and that kind of thing, then it makes you a better activist. And I also, think that it makes you a healthier person. And that said, you also have the option, I think, of not going into spaces. And this year, thankfully, talk about making lemons into lemonade. This year, you absolutely have that option. But I think even in other times, you can say, this is just too toxic. It brings out the worst in me. It makes me an ineffective advocate. I'm going to find another way to do that. And you can go to your Unitarian Universalist Fellowship's Thanksgiving feast, and you can have a Friendsgiving, or you can do what we do and do what I call a Marksgiving, where we are family of choice in terms of our political praxis. So I think there's a lot of things you can do, but man, if you can shed some of that anger, then you're taking care of yourself. You're taking care of your body.
Can I also say this idea of leading by example and being the change that you want to see in the world? And so it kind of tying into what you were saying, and also Derek, this idea of the gratitude, self-care and joy, right? Joy and rest being part of the revolution and necessary parts of the revolution. And this idea of, I know one of the things that I've put on our sort of story arc of what's on my heart for this podcast is this idea of better world envisioning, that we're talking about positive things about what this means, and not just these are our list of demands, and instead of abolish the police, let's talk about love and peace and what could be, and gratitude for what we have now. And I think the idea of the revolution being sustainable, it requires joy, it requires gratitude, it requires rest, not just as afterthoughts, but as the main sort of components, right, of that being what makes it sustainable, and what, again, is that better world that we want to see. And being the change, right? Like showing gratitude and positivity in the midst of all of this. I think it's super powerful for the energy forces, those feedback loops in the universe. And also, Matt, this idea too of everybody gets to say what their own boundary is. And my boundary and my threshold is different, right? And my feeling or my calling, and also my self-care, right? Of what I know, this is a different boundary, or this is where I need to not show up to this thing with this family. And this is also where I feel called to minister, called to meet those people and commune with those people, because these are also people that we either know and love, or have known and have loved, at least at some point, generally, right? These are real people. And so not discounting our ability to connect and their ability to connect with us as well. And maybe come out of the haze of the Fox News for just a moment and hear a heart, maybe. Yeah, okay. So anything else on that before I continue with like what happens if somebody actually does do something?
That sounds exciting.
So the scene, Zoom in person, hopefully Zoom. Something is said, right? Where you feel it comes up. I always say speaking truth to power is difficult, even if the power is perceived or real, it doesn't matter, right? Speaking your truth to anyone, advocating for yourself and saying like, hold on, whatever that looks like, I think that it is a challenge, regardless, right? Those perceived dynamics in this situation kind of determine what's going to play out. So, do you guys have any thoughts or any strategies or tips that you know, when something is said, of what you have done or what you feel like is appropriate? I know it already came up with Derek that one time about, is it like a joke about domestic violence or something? And you felt compelled at the moment to just kind of like lovingly call somebody out. I think that was it. Somebody that you like had a connection with. Right?
And this is with like a complete stranger, which
Yeah.
changed the dynamics enough because, you know, if it's a stranger, I don't know how much of a joke it is. But,
do you know more or less when it's a family member though? I guess that's the whole, right? So like,
yeah.
Yeah,
so
this
the same thing. Oh, go ahead, please.
this is really, really hard. The last time I had to interact with family in a serious way, like over a holiday season, I was with my sister and her oldest son, who is 17, or at the time was. Barack Obama had just been in office for a little while. And I was cooking breakfast, and for some reason he was there with his friend, and they would not stop saying the N-word. Over and over and over again. And when I showed that, hey, knock that off, you can't say that word, they just kept doing it. And my sister's like, knock that off. And he wouldn't do it. And I finally literally kicked him in the ass. And I feel bad about that. But on the other hand, I didn't know how to stop the assault, the mental assault that I was feeling. I'm not a Black person. I don't understand fully the weight of that word. I don't get it. All I know is that it makes anybody who hears that reacts either positively or very negatively. There's no middle ground on that word. And, you know, and I was just so distressed to keep hearing that over and over again. My flesh and blood, and my sister was unable to stop him. He just being a little dick. And, you know, so yeah, I need better. So since then, I don't do a lot of the family stuff, and this Thanksgiving is easy because of COVID. I don't have to go see my relatives if I don't want to, But might I encourage others to come up with a less physically dramatic method of explaining their distaste for another's behavior? But after hearing that word 20 times, I literally lost my mind in the course of just a few minutes. I just couldn't stand it anymore.
So I just want to say, number one, again, I really appreciate your vulnerability more than I can express, your transparency. And I also want to say, like, I'm not saying that physical assault is correct or excused in any way, shape, or form, or should ever. I just want to be very clear to the camera. Right? However, I also want to be very sensitive to the idea of triggering trauma. And I don't know how I would react to somebody continuing to say that word. And if it was my son, you know what I mean? If I'm in that and it's a family, it's not appropriate. It is absolutely inappropriate. And the idea of having better strategies, but also that's really, really, that is, yeah, you only have one of two reactions to that word, right? If it's not a positive reaction, it is a very triggering, it's not a good word to hear multiple times when somebody's saying, no, I'm not going to stop. Fuck you. I'm just going to keep saying this awful word, knowing that it's awful, knowing that it's hurtful. That is a really aggressive thing to have happen. It just is. From somebody who is basically damn near full grown adult almost when you're 17, you know what I mean? Almost grown up. And that is what? Who are you? You're my family and I love you. And you're saying what? And you won't stop? Are you kidding me? That's just I just want to acknowledge how triggering something like that. I just can't even imagine what in the actual fuck, how anybody would respond. Does that make sense? Not excusing it at all, but also I am putting myself in this situation of what the fuck. I don't know. That's not really a semi-racist joke where you're oh, can you tell me what's funny about the joke? Right? Can you explain what's funny? I'm sorry, that's not really, there's a different level that's really, it's really.
I mean, you're supposed to be the racist uncle, not the racist nephew. Because you always hear about.
But it's hard. I mean,
dinner,
you never know. You never know where it's gonna. You never know where it's gonna come up. And there are people, there are in-laws and other folks on different in my family that I just, again, I won't raise the issues with at all. And also I have, this is really good. You can, on Facebook and I think on some other social media platforms, you can filter out who you want to read your posts as well. So if you know that you've got that brother-in-law or uncle or nephew, or notice how I'm always bringing up men, but there are definitely women, that you would want to exclude as well. You can exclude people from reading those things. It's in Facebook, it's called the Friends Accept. And you can just basically make a list. And when you choose that mode of delivery, then all of those people are excluded, from that. So I use that when I know that, someone might otherwise react, negatively and hijack a thread that I'm trying to have a discussion with people on. I also use it when I, post things that are a little bit explicit in other ways too. So that helps as well. Anyway, that's my life hack, is that you can exclude some of the people who read your posts.
No, I appreciate that, because I've actually noticed that a lot more lately, and I have conflicted feelings about it because of this feeling of calling to compassion, right? Or it's really hard. I know exactly what you're saying. And this is, I don't know that there's a right answer, but I appreciate that as a strategy because it's something that I have seen other friends use, right? As like a strategy to sort of not deal with drama that you don't need, right? Not deal with, not invite in bad juju that is unnecessary and unproductive to the furtherment of where we're going. When you know what it's going to be. Also, thank you for reminding us that it's not just men. And so I think too, this idea of what I've really felt really convicted and not conflicted, just straight up convicted, is the idea of like white women generally like not being, we're the ones who see and hear lots of things and don't say a word, right? And just sort of go about our business and let whatever toxicity is happening with the men, just men be men, or, the racist, it's just, the men who don't get it, but still allowing it to happen, right? Still sort of, it's still perpetuating it by not bringing that accountability to ourselves and to the people that we love too, if we're if that is our position and that is the place that we've been given. Does that, I don't know.
I find this particular holiday interesting because it brings together three very, very negative things: colonialism, racism, and sexism. There's the women stay in the kitchen and cook the dinner, the men drink beer and watch the football game level of sexism. Just your average stand, they don't have to help at all. They're men, let them go in there and do their manly, man things. And the women will stay here in the kitchen and we'll fetch a beer whenever somebody asks for one. And there's the racism, like we've talked about, but also towards indigenous peoples. And then there's the grossness of colonialism on top of it, which we're celebrating. So it's a kind of a whacked holiday when you think about it, because you're bringing all of the worst things together, or at least three of the worst things I can think of, concepts together in one holiday. And hey, let's celebrate colonialism, racism, and sexism. Woohoo! Have a party, roast a turkey, say some racist jokes. I mean, I don't know what else to say. And have the woman fit you a beer.
So it's funny because it's true. It's sad because it's true, right? Like it's a joke because it is rooted. It is true. Like, and everyone has been to that function, including myself, lots of times. And I think the thing of like that versus what do we want to see? What could that look like? And again, I appreciate the whole Derek, like this idea of showing, like, still having gratitude in the midst of the shit, right? And like still saying I love you and I'm going to call you out, and I'm going to call you out because I love you, or I love you and this is a toxic situation and I love myself, and so for me right now, being the change that I need to see in the world is not being in this situation, and I love you so much, and we'll talk about some stuff that we could talk about, but this is not it, right? And the idea of saying like, this is Gratitude to Colonizers Day. What are we doing? We need to change this, right? We can still have gratitude. We can change it. But also we have to come to terms with what it was. We have to recognize what we're doing and what we should be doing and what we need to change. All of those things, right? We got to switch it up. Sorry. Yeah. You just set me off.
It's all good.
Yeah. Take it back, right? Like take what is good about it, the gratitude, right? Take and reject the rest and say these are the parts that we need to adjust and we need to reflect on and heal, right? And try to get better. So
and I did experience positive change over the course of the years. Now, I mean, this was years ago that this happened. So it's been over a decade, and my nephew is a wonderful human being, and I love him to death. It was the quirk of a low-key minded 17-year-old that drove me to that point, the trickster. But a positive thing is whenever I come to visit, which is not very often, or even in a hotel room, Fox News immediately gets turned off. My sister will not allow it to be on while I'm there. And because she knows that it triggers me. And she knows that most of what's coming out of that is bullshit. She's pretty cynical, so but she just like, nope. And if her husband is watching it, she don't give a shit. Turn it off. Switch the station. Watch the game. I'll bring you a beer, Archie. Okay, just call me Edith. And that's.
Do you ever just dissociate when you are having holidays with family that that you disagree with their core beliefs? And maybe dissociate is too strong of a term to use, but like there are definitely times when I will be in that context and I'm just going to be like, I'm just going to be a zombie for the next few hours and eat these chips and eat the dinner and watch the game. And I don't know. Do you ever, does anyone else ever experience that just I am switching it off kind of feeling?
Only if I'm
that sounds
taking
very
heavy
familiar.
doses of Ativan. Ativan's the only medication I've ever known that's allowed me to dissociate from the unpleasantness going on around me. So, no.
What were you going to say, Derek?
That does sound very familiar to me. That sounds like a natural defense mechanism that I haven't really been conscious of. But yeah, looking back, that's definitely something that I've done.
I'm not very good at it. It's difficult for me. And so I generally just like have to exit situations if I feel like I have to, like, I don't respond well when I have that level of like that sort of like cognitive dissonance or just like what am I actually doing here? Can I do it? Right. And so I would say like sometimes I can do it, but also I've had times where like, I don't do well. I don't, my coping mechanisms of being able to just sit there and pretend like everything is fine is like, it doesn't, it's difficult. It's a real big challenge for me. I'll just say that.
Yes.
Antifa, I'm continuously impressed with how you travel all over the planet, including in outer space, and yet your surroundings seem so consistently familiar.
Well, I had George Soros buy me a used TARDIS.
All makes sense.
Yeah, naturally. Good.
This
good
is
answer.
the Soros money. It's my used TARDIS, and so I flit wherever I want. I mean, I had toyed with going back and interviewing with Christopher Columbus, but I don't know why I'd want to talk to that shitbag. So, I didn't.
As we wrap up, I want to say one thing that Matt said at the beginning. I think it was Matt about breathing and right, and about deep breaths. And so it's good for your health on lots of different levels. And I was hoping if we could can I just do like one quick breathing exercise just to kind of like have people feel what that feels like. And so it's a really great thing to do all the time, right? For anxiety, whenever anything is wrong, a good deep breath is probably part of the answer. We'll just say that. It may not be the complete answer, but a good deep breath. And so filling your lungs all the way up and feeling that, and then letting it go. So when you do the exhale with your mouth open, it like the lion's breath in the yoga, like letting it all go, getting all of the stale air out of your belly. And sometimes another strategy for like that I learned like in the health coaching, growling, right? Getting those feelings if you're feeling like upset or you're feeling anger, just letting it go however it needs to go. Taking a deep breath in, deep breath out. Like just focusing on that awareness of your chest, but not just your chest, but also like your diaphragm, your core, your seat of intuition, and letting that peace just wash back over you. In yoga, we always say like you inhale what you want and you exhale what you don't. You inhale all the good and you exhale what no longer serves you. And so Matt, I really appreciate you bringing that up because breath is so important. It's important for COVID. It's important for all the things, but like for our mental and our physical well-being, yeah, if you're struggling, just go back and focus on your breath. Like literally, I would say that's probably, besides like anything else, that's a good one. That's a real good one. So yeah. Any last words? Any other thoughts, feelings before we?
I just have one interesting bit of input from our capitalist surroundings. The Dow has just hit 30,000 for the first time in history. Woohoo!
Wait, I'm sorry, say that again.
The
Yay,
Dow
Dow.
Jones Industrial Average has just hit 30,000 points for the first time ever. Woohoo! That means exactly dick to all of us. I just thought I'd share that.
Congratulations to the
How amazing
1%
our
of the
country is.
population that gives a fuck
Exactly.
about
It's just,
that.
it's a gift to them on Colonizer Day. I love
No.
you all. I have to go. This turd won't drop in the punch bowl on its own. So I'll see you.
Thank you for that documentation of what really matters and the Dow, because that's now we have that historically recorded, and the turd. Thank you so much. Derek, Matt, anything else from you guys? Please don't make it about capitalist stuff.
We'll be here all week, right? And what do we, and we've got tomorrow we have,
Tomorrow we get to talk about Black Friday, capitalism, materialism, good stuff. And then that's the day before the day. And so then Thursday is going to be a special. I think we're doing Thursday as Patreon only. So subscribe. So like, share, subscribe at patreon.com/solidarity house. Thursday is still a TBD. It's going to be a gratitude. We're thinking gratitude music is where we're at. But we're gonna mess around, TBD on Thursday. But tomorrow's Black Friday, materialism, capitalism. So
sounds good. Thanks everybody. Please support us at patreon.com/solidarity house, and watch for our new podcast episode to drop later this morning, featuring our conversation with Lynette Grable. Very, very excited about that, and lots of other stuff coming. So thanks everybody.
thank you. Love you. Bye.
Peace.
And you press something. Thank you, Derek. Derek, get some rest.